Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Virginia. If you haven't been here before, oh, I forgot to take off my sunglasses. My bad. So, I've wanted to start doing these live streams, just something that's like a little bit more low key and like more laid back, but also sort of a longer form. And after I did my previous video on getting started on not specifically eBay, but like any of the online platforms and selling online, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and try this out. It will be, yeah, just sort of like a longer thought process. Basically, I'm on break in between my classes. For those of you who don't know, I do take dance classes. I've been up to a lot lately, random things that I haven't actually mentioned yet, but I have a break, and in between, I think it would be easier if I just went ahead and talked through different things. So today I'm going to talk about starting a business, not specifically a small business, because online businesses can go from very tiny to very large, like literally any size. But starting a business in general, starting an online business versus going to college. Yeah, I have taken business and economics classes. I've also been to college, not necessarily in that order. And I also have now started my small business, which I will call small because it is currently a small business. So yeah, that's what I'm talking through. And basically, I know that a lot of people sort of feel like it's either or, because if you want to get started in a business, then if you get started earlier, it's kind of better than, like waiting a really long time and then trying to start it when you already have like a full-time job and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm just gonna like give my thoughts on it basically. So, I went to college first, obviously. I went to college a while back. It was a very small college. Um, and now I've taken some business classes on the side, like by myself. The economics classes I did take in college, but the business classes I took like sort of on the side. And so in those classes, a big like sort of discussion with some of the people taking the classes, because it was like a college-based class, was like almost like, why am I even taking this class? Because I want to start a business, or like just hurry up and give me the information so that I can leave school and start a business. That was like very much like, I don't want to say the vibe of the class, but definitely the teacher expected it to be the vibe, if you know what I mean, because I think he's run into that a lot. But yeah, anyway, I liked that class. I also took like business finance. That was nice. I took small business management. That was not nice. That was a repeat basically of the other two classes. But I don't think that would be the case at every school you go to. I think that was just the case with the class that I took because of the teacher who I took it with. But yeah, so it was really useful. And I think starting a business online, I'm not going to say brick and mortar, because brick and mortar is a whole different thing and gets very like I don't know, it gets very expensive. You have a lot of upfront costs, and that's why in terms of selling online, when I recommend to people that they sell online, I recommend they start with something like eBay, where you don't have any upfront costs. And that's like really basically the point, is like, if you're going to start selling online, I like the idea of selling things that you don't have, you know what I mean? Like, not don't have, sorry. Selling things that like you don't have to put money into like right out of the bat, because like you don't know anything about shipping. You don't know anything about fulfilling orders or packing orders. You and like I actually had worked in a mailroom when I was in college, so I do actually know a little bit about shipping. But um in terms of like a stranger fulfill, like usually you're mailing things to a business or you're mailing things to a friend. You're not mailing things to a complete stranger. So yeah, like you've got to work on fulfilling things and like learning how the websites work, setting things up. Initially, obviously setting them up to sell in the first place so that someone actually orders it. Um, Yellow lights are just a no, like I don't know. I know people give that advice, but like I still see listings where people have taken it under a lamp and I just don't understand why. I don't get it. You can't tell what color the product is if it is under a yellow lamp. You just can't. But anyway, so yeah, I always recommend like starting that way. Also, if you watch, like I watched all of the people, right? Like Gary V, Hormozy, both him and his wife. I've watched a lot of like YouTubers that talk about like how to like do the YouTube thing, but also like how to like build it as a business. And like Colin and Samir, which I love. I just watched their most recent video on our LA problems with our fires because they're getting worse. But anyway, I won't go down that road yet. Um, so yeah, I think that starting out without any expenditure is like the way to do it. Most of the people who are like very wealthy talk about like garage sailing and flipping and things like that. And it's like most people have junk. I mean, I don't want to say junk, but most people have things in their house that are no longer worth anything to them, but they will be worth something to someone else. And Gary Vee talks about garage sailing, whatever it's called, yard sale hunting. And I just watched one from Bill Gates, and he said that he had also been doing that, even though he like doesn't push it as like a big thing. It's something that he did. So, and I think one of the guys from Shark Tank was saying that he would like buy sodas and then like resell them at a higher price when he was like in school and really young. So I think those are all habits like that are entrepreneurial habits. Basically the idea is turn something that is worth nothing virtually into money. And yeah, so I think that is why eBay is like a good way to start that because they don't charge you for listings. I mean, a lot of people don't. Poshmark doesn't, Depop doesn't. I consider those similar category, except with a much smaller audience to sell to, which is why they're like not my first first way to say. Although I did sell two things on Depop this week, but it's a little bit less consistent and the buyers are a little less serious because they're younger and or some of them are trying to start their own business. So they're trying to buy it from you for really cheap. So yeah, I think that's a good mechanism to like start. And I would say that that can be started at any time, whether you're in college or whether you have a job or whether, you're at any stage in your life. And that is why I feel like instead of saying like it has to be one or the other, like college or business, I think it can be both at the same time to some extent, as long as, I mean, most people aren't going to sell enough like right off the bat to be missing classes. Um, in terms of college, so yeah, the state of college is definitely degrading. There's no argument about that. We had a lot of people who were coming to our country for our school because it was like the best school or whatever. It's like not anymore. Depends on the school you go to. It's also what you make of it. That was like the biggest thing. I don't want to say the biggest thing that college taught me, but because college taught me a lot of things, but it is a huge thing that college taught me is that it's sort of what you make of it. Business is the same. If you can't make something, unless you go to a really, really, really bad school, if you can't make something out of what was taught to you, then that's probably something on your end. Like you can make something of anything. The person who's like good information from someone who like maybe even isn't even like in a position that's like as good as yours or whatever. If it's good information, it's good information. And learning to like find that good information is really important and will be important whether you decide to go business route or college route or both. I think the problem is that college wasn't initially built for you to like get a job. If you look at like historical, college, like old England, 1800s. If you look at that, for one, it was mostly wealthy people who went. It was not like regular working people. And also, it was meant for people to like make connections, learn things. Half of those people never went to work, literally. They were nobility. They were not expected to work. They were discouraged from working. College was not meant to like get you a job. They did not want to get jobs. Um, so yeah, and now it's become like go to college, get a job, and it's like that's not what it was built for. It's for like knowledge acquiring, basically. Um, and like it does that depending on where you go. I mean, it should do that in most places unless you're like going somewhere really funky. I think I'm gonna roll the window. It's hot. It's starting to get hot. It was snowing a week ago today, snowing, and now it's hot. But anyway, um, so yeah, that was what college was initially for. Um, Now it's like you getting a job, like a lot of people have college degrees, so getting the job is hard. And I think that's the problem is like colleges that aren't good are like shedding. Colleges that are maybe just located wrong or like are looking for the wrong demographic, those are shedding. Colleges that are like more expensive, and a lot of colleges were heavily reliant on people from other countries coming in and paying cash. And now those people aren't coming in anymore. And that's why they're not solvent anymore, because that's just bad business. But they bet on foreign markets, and now the foreign markets are letting them down. So, I don't weep for them. But yeah, that's how it's working. So actually, my college is yeah, in that category. I don't want to say it's shutting down. It's not, but to those of us who went there, it feels like it's shutting down because we had a sister school basically, and the sister school is eating like like our school, our smaller school, and the demographic for the two schools was different. I went to a school called Simon's Rock, and you go there when you're 16, so you go early. Yeah, it's not, I mean, you just go early. That's how it works. You go early, everyone there's young, and you go early, and then you do college. And then some people transfer out, depends on their major. If they're engineers, like especially, they'll transfer because they have like a partnership with Columbia and Dartmouth. Um, and so, yeah, now our sister school, which was the bigger school, which had regular aged college students, is basically eating our school. And because we know how like laid back and it was a very liberal school, and for younger people and more like hands on, all those things, now that we know that the bigger school is eating it, that's just sort of it in terms of that vibe. It's not going to be that anymore. Which I personally, they had put a high school on the campus, which I was like, going in the wrong direction. Why would you attract people who want to go to college early and have been like trying to get out of the high school track and then shove a bunch of high schoolers onto the campus, which like makes it a high school again, basically. Anyway, it's a long story on personal stuff. But anyway, that college, yes, the demographic for people wanting to go younger is like kind of over now, I guess. Most, I guess, younger people are like, yeah, I'll just do business or TikTok, or they're going to just wait to go to college until they're 18. So like the demographics have changed, and that's one school that I know of that's having that issue. It's a very specific issue. However, I do know of plenty of other schools that people I know worked in or went to where they were like misappropriating funds, or like trying to attract foreign students and then the foreign students stop showing up, or any number of things. I think colleges became really oversaturated, and that is something like anyone could sort of make one, and that's why the quality of them started going down, among other things. And so that's why it's like, is college worth it? If Here's what I say. I am not a person who like does things prompted on my own. Like I prompt myself to get into class. I prompt myself to go to school, and therefore I learn things, but I don't prompt myself to do everything from scratch on my own. So, sorry. So, I know that because I'm that type of person, I college was good for me. You know what I mean? Also because I went early. So like I got it out of the way quickly. So yeah, that's my personality type. If the person, like, if I'm the type of person where like unprompted I'd probably just sit on the couch and like do nothing, or like research it a lot but then like never actually implement it. Um, so because I'm that type of person, going to college, like, or going to school or taking classes is a good prompter for me. And I think that's sort of it, know thyself, which of course is really hard for people who are really young because they don't know themselves yet because they're still learning. So I do understand that. But if like some people prompt themselves to do stuff already, like they were saying, the entrepreneurial, like if you were selling soda cans to your friends for $1 each that you know your parents bought for like $5 a pack, then obviously you were prompted to do stuff. And I'm talking about all kinds of skills because I think people think of college as like math and science. And I think it depends on what you sell. I sell like earrings, um, like I mean, I sell clothing, obviously, but it's not clothing that I've made. But yeah, so like I sell more artistic type of things. And those, some of the skills I did pick up in college. I learned to sew actually in like middle school, I guess. But school is what gave me some of those. I took photography, so like yeah, we had a dark room and we had to mess with the chemicals and all that kind of stuff. So those skills came from that. And then economics also is one. I keep getting spam calls, I'm sorry. And then, like economics is one that I learned in college as well. Um, Having to stick to something is sort of what college is about. You got to stick to it for 4 years, unprompted and like not forced by the government. 0 to, like 18 in elementary school and high school and middle school, you're forced by the government until you're 16. And then after that, it's on you. So it's sort of like you will stick to something. I know I will stick to something for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, maybe too long. Honestly, some things I probably should let go, but I stick to them. So that's like an important part of it. And it will come down to knowing yourself and then also learning from people who are around. Sometimes the people who you learn from aren't always the teachers. I took a terrible, terrible film class. It was awful. The teacher was not good as a person or as a teacher. And but there was an equipment room, and the person who was in the equipment room was very helpful, and he taught me a lot because I asked. If I hadn't asked, I wouldn't know, but I went to him and I asked. And so a lot of things come out learning that way. And then later I studied film with real teachers who were really good and really great. But if I had let him, the teacher, like dissuade me, then I would have never gone into the film and like learned film from real great film people who were really supportive and taught a lot. So that's why I say like it's what you get out of it, because like my school was small, so I definitely heard from a lot of people that they felt like it wasn't worth it. Some of them transferred, and like if you feel like something isn't worth it, then yes, you can make changes on your own. But I felt like I could get something out of it, and I feel like I did in the end. You know what I mean? So um and colleges will continue to die. Like this is not the end of, it's not like we've had like the full circuit of them like getting rid of like fake schools and like the big colleges shutting out because they had to admit that they were letting people pay to get degrees there. It's going to keep shaking down. I think the main problem is like you don't want to go in thinking that it's going to get you a job. I think in the future, people need to be practical in terms of work and not fully reliant on their jobs. The day of being fully reliant on a job is done. Everyone knows that. Well, I don't say everyone knows that, but a lot of people know that. It's been over for a while now. Most people, I think, understand like, okay, yeah, 40 years on the same job's not going to happen. But it's not just that. It's that jobs in and of themselves are shedding. They will change. They will alter what they're doing. We don't have, how many people know coal miners? You know, my like great great uncle was a coal miner. We don't know anymore unless still talk, like there are still some in West Virginia, some who may be related to me, but the ones that I am related to and keep in touch with are no longer, working in that. They've gone to other things. They went into other types of manufacturing. People went into car manufacturing, or business, or arts, or teaching, or nursing, or whatever. So regular jobs, it's like there aren't my favorite one because I really love Regency era stuff. There are very few wagon builders now, not and like carriage builders. There's like the people who build carriages for the royal family, they're like the only people who build carriages still. Nobody does that, sadly. And maybe the people who build the ones for like Times Square, where you can go around on the horse. But yeah, jobs, you can't be reliant on them anymore. And that is why I say like both instead of one. So, like, you go to college. If you know you're not a self prompting person, you get the information. But if you can, while you're in college, just start building the business. And it can be in any form. And I think what I've learned is that, like, I was very sure about what I wanted to, like, do. I was like, I'm going to make clothes. And then I think as you like grow them, you'll learn more about like markets and practicality and all of those sorts of things. And then that will help you, pin down sort of where you want to go with business. And also, I think what you see from like most business people is that they've got their hand in like a lot of different businesses. I'm not saying like you should go try and do, like marketing of medicine, if you don't know anything about that, because that's dangerous. But they have their like tentacles into a lot of different things so that they can see which one's like working for them. And yeah, like I learned with the clothing, other than the fact that it's just super time consuming. I don't necessarily want to make like a ton of pieces over and over. I maybe would make a few and like that would be it, unless I could find someone to manufacture it for me. The cost of fabric and all of those things has gone through the roof. So there's like absolutely no reason to, yeah, like spend, like put that much in if I don't even see like a slight possibility of getting it out. Even Joann's, like so sad. I love Joann's. It was like the last minute run to place and it's gone. And Hobby Lobby does not carry fabrics like Joann's does. When we were going around for I planned my sister's wedding. In case you didn't know, that's like a running series on my channel. I planned my sister's wedding, and for a while we were looking for her wedding dress. She ended up getting it made from someone who manufactures in China because A, they're closer because she's in Japan, and B, it was like less expensive and less drama. You just give them the design and they make it. So yeah, we were looking around here to see if there was anyone like where to get fabric and how to manufacture, and literally everyone we talked to was like, you're gonna have to go to downtown LA. It was like, oh, sorry, the sound. They were like, you're gonna have to go to downtown LA. That's where the fabric is. Most of the fabric stores that were everywhere else have shut down. So yeah, we drove to downtown LA because we did get some extra fabrics that she needed. But yeah, it was like, park on the street, walk 3 blocks or 4 blocks, uh, try not to pay for parking. I think we didn't have to because of the day we went, but it was ridiculous. And I'm not saying they don't have a great selection. Of course they do. But you shouldn't have to like do that just to get some, like if you're trying to make sales quickly and cheaply, having to drive down to downtown LA is not the most practical way to handle sales. So yeah, and because I don't have pierced ears, that's why I went into the earring making. I've always wanted earrings. I watched my mom wear them and they were so cute. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get my ears pierced. And then I couldn't. And so, yes, alternatives are happened. And a lot of the clip on earrings that are sold in all of like the regular stores are really, really painful. I wore one to a wedding and I mean, it was like, 6 hours or whatever. And when I took them off, I guess my ear had gone numb and I didn't realize it. And when I took them off, it was like excruciating pain. And then I realized I had a scab, like a crescent shaped scab from where it had cut through my ear. And yeah, it was really not great. So I was like, okay, these aren't an option. And yeah, so I went through and I did a lot of research and I found some alternatives. And it's a really small market, but it's a market that I like. And I can look into other things as well while I'm doing it. So I think that comes down to like, you know, college versus small business. It is a lot of money. So if you absolutely are like, that's not in the cards, then I would say, like, for the most part, don't worry about it. Community college classes are a good option to like pick up information without having to like fully, what's the word, commit to 4 years round the clock. uh and like you can kind of work in college, but it doesn't really cover anything except for it may help you cover your books and like your food, but you're probably not going to be able to work enough. I mean, my last year of college, I worked 4 jobs, and I was part-time mailroom, theater, like stagehand, which was my first job. And I had my lifeguarding certificate, and one more, academic affairs was the other one. And, I was a senior. I took 18 credits every semester. So my last year, my advisor was like, you're like done, right? Except for thesis. And I was like, I guess I am. So I had a lot of downtime. And so, yeah, I was able to work a lot. But like, in no way, shape, or form does that minimum wage like begin to like scratch the surface of tuition, because tuition is just ridiculous. And honestly, if you're at a big school and you do the math, you realize that administration takes like the majority of it. They say it goes to like upkeep and for the buildings and like paying the teachers. But anyone who's taken economics, which it's like you are a college, so some people have taken economics, the math doesn't add up. For one, the upkeep of a lot of the buildings is covered by donations and the endowment for the school. And then, yes, some of the students are paying for the teachers' extremely low salaries, but we all know that like the majority of the money just goes to admin. It's how it works. And so that's why a lot of the schools are insolvent, because, deciding on where to spend that money, they just don't want to take a pay cut. And honestly, it's like, why not? It's like, take a pay cut, like, 2 out of 4 years. Like, you don't have to, whatever. Anyway, that's just how that works. So, that's how college, is in terms of like funding it. And it may be hard, obviously, to afford. It is very expensive. But if you really want to go, then, don't let that stop you. But I would say doing the small business at the same time is not a bad idea, because people do need to like hedge against the future. And after college is done, it will come down to work. And because work is so unstable, it's a good idea to have your own like extra source of income that's coming in. And in terms of business, like, it's not going to be big. It's going to be such a slow start unless you have that like innate ability. It's going to be really slow. You're going to not make very much money at first. You're going to probably change your product. You're going to have to ask people like what they're doing and how they do it. It is a little bit reliant on the economy and how it's doing, depending on what you sell. If you sell necessities, then people will keep buying them. But if you sell stuff like me, then like they don't need it all the time. So, you know, uh, it will be a little bit, reliant on how the economy is doing. If you can find something that's like sort of, most things like aren't necessity. If you don't sell food or water or housing, which is a different kind of a thing, then you don't really have a necessity. Um, but some people, like, there are things where people are like, okay, I do need this like a little bit more than something that's like completely frivolous, like, like a strapless mini dress is like absolutely not in the needed category. So I would say it's not a versus, even though I put that in the title. It's not really a versus, it's an and everyone needs to learn about economics and everyone needs to learn about business. And instead of being really upset that it's like not working for you, or that like you didn't learn what you thought you'd learn in college, or whatever it may be, just like keep learning and keep pushing. And that's the way to like get things to open up, because it's just not practical to be like, ugh, they're trying, like this like ethereal they is trying to stop me and it can't be done and my teachers didn't tell me blah blah blah. Like it's sort of on you, to make it work yourself. And make changes until you can make something work. But yeah, I would say it's definitely an and, not an or. Um, and I think, it can be really fun once you get into it, and like once you start seeing how it works and like start making sales, or getting clients, depending on what, type of business you're building. I think that you'll really start to enjoy it, if business at all fits your vibe. And if you feel like it completely doesn't, then really work on building like a flexible skill set so that you can always be employed. If you're like, absolutely, business is not happening for me, then you're probably going to, I mean, I don't want to say probably, like you're going to need to work, you're going to need a job. So you're going to need a good network of people that will hire you, and flexible skills, so that as the landscape continues to change with electronics and internet and all of that lovely stuff that we've got going, that you can be practical and flexible and make the changes. So yeah, I hope this conversation was interesting. I'm going to try and do more like them, because I like the sort of like unfiltered, sorry, there's a car just like circling in front of me. I like the unfiltered sort of aspect. If you have any questions, let me know. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in wedding stuff or eBay stuff and some like DIY stuff, I do have like some DIY stuff, then please let me know. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Okay? Now let me see how I close this.